Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to build wealth with rental properties. We know that there's a lot of gurus who are teaching how to get rich quick, and people fall for these ideas because there are ways to get rich quick. You can win the lottery, rob a bank, marry somebody rich. Note to self, you should DM Melinda and Mackenzie, or inherit a large sum of money. Since there are ways to get rich quick, some people think that there are get-rich-quick schemes that are effective. Nobody is talking about get-wealthy-quick schemes. This is mostly because rich is just having a lot of money. Wealthy is a math equation. How many months can you live your current lifestyle if you stopped working for money and selling your life 1 hour at a time? Acquiring cash-flowing assets that make more money than it costs you to live takes time. My goal in this video is to teach you how to grow wealth by investing in rental properties. I want to keep this video short to respect your time, but I want to still make sure that there's good information in it. So anytime I come up to a subject that I've covered in detail in another video, I will put an image of that video here, like this, and I will leave a link in the description below. Hey, post guy, a link like this one here, wake up. Okay. Man, he is so lazy. You know he's us, right? Shh. Investing to build wealth is a race. None of us want to be stuck in a job. This doesn't mean we don't want to work, but there's a big difference in wanting to work and having to work. While it is a race, remember these 6 words. It's a marathon, not a sprint. When it comes to investing, there are some things that can be very different for each of us, and some things that are almost exactly the same. Let's start with some things that can be really different. First, you need to decide what type of rental you're going to invest in. There are several different types. Do you want to invest in storage facilities? I think these are nice because there's usually no tenants living on the property. Usually. Do you want single-family house, small multifamily, multifamily? You're going to invest locally or at a distance? Are you going to self-manage or use a property manager? The type of rentals you choose to invest in will affect how you look for those properties and what factors you consider when looking at those deals. Once you decide this, we get to the thing that's pretty much the same for all of us investors. How do we know if it's a good deal? When I was first starting out, my goal was to replace my cost of living expenses with rental profit because I was tired of my sources of income being taken away due to things outside of my control. After Desert Storm, the Marine Corps downsized. In 2008, I was a police officer and laid off because of the recession. When a recession hits, cities aren't making a lot of money because there's not a lot of taxes being generated. So I started investing in rental properties so that my cost of living expenses didn't have to be covered by me selling my life 1 hour at a time, especially since those ways of selling my life kept getting taken away. But I didn't understand some simple things like cash flow. I was looking at things like, how much is the mortgage? What is the rent? The difference is profit, right? But not today. I wasn't accounting for things like maintenance or vacancy. At some point, you're going to have an empty property. And when that happens, expenses still occur, and not just the mortgage. When a tenant isn't living there, as the property owner, utilities become your responsibility. While I'm recording this video, I have this tenant flip going on. I needed power so that I could see to paint, which I normally would have a contractor do, but this time I'm doing myself for some reason. And the contractor that's doing the flooring is going to need power for his tools. Depending on the time of year, if you have a vacancy, just shutting off the breakers isn't even a good option because that might just turn the place into a big block of ice, and that can cause all kinds of problems. And if you're like me and you want to protect your assets, whenever you have a vacancy, you might want to put security cameras in place. A lot of them require Wi-Fi to operate. I use the Arlo camera system. I have a link in the description below. Maintenance also has a cost. And you have some large priced items that eventually are going to need replaced. Roof, water heater, maybe foundation work, even large trees can have an expense in the future. And you need to be saving for those. The reason I choose to continue investing in rental properties is because I now have systems in place that make me confident in my ability to consistently purchase properties that get me the yield that I want. My goal is to get at least a 10% cash-on-cash return when I buy a rental property. Some investors do better by investing in stocks or crypto or growing a business. But for me, confidence in my ability to get a consistent outcome is the deciding factor. And when I'm talking about yield, I'm not talking about appreciation on 4 times what I spent because I'm using leverage. I'm not talking about principal paydown where the tenants pay the mortgage off. I'm not talking about paying virtually no taxes due to things like depreciation and write-offs. I also like the control that I have when it comes to rental properties. Using my binder method, I'm able to get tenants to request a rent increase and to request longer leases. So far, 100% of the time. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have much luck if I bought some Amazon stocks and I called Jeff and I said, "Hey, I own some stocks. How'd you feel about paying me more?" Once you know how to run the numbers, it's a lot easier to decide which properties to invest in. In the beginning, I did not know what yield was. We are not a math guy. That's true. I heard people talk about how much they make per door or what their cash flow is. So I was trying to make sense of properties using these methods. In the forums, I would see things like, if you make $100 per door or more, it's a good deal. But did you spend $10,000 to get the property or $1 million? Huge difference. And then I learned what yield is. Most people in real estate call this your cash-on-cash return, taking your annual profit and dividing it by your cost to acquire the property. The down payment is only part of the cost to acquire the property. You also have closing costs, immediate repairs costs, and there could be some holding costs. You might not rent it out immediately, and remember, you're going to need things like utilities, and there could be a mortgage payment or two before you get that place rented out. And math is just the first step in the criteria to find out if you want to buy a property or not. In a storage facility, hopefully there's no tenants living in it, but is there a large enough population close by that justifies you having a storage facility there? If looking at rental properties for people to live in, I have to look at things like, is it on a busy street, making it less likely for people to want to rent it? Is it close to at least 2 economic drivers, so that I have more than one source of tenants, something like a base, a port, a college, a hospital, a Boeing or an Amazon terminal, or a population of 100,000 or more. These are just some of the strategies that I use to protect my portfolio. The goal is to make the property attractive to the largest group of people, because the more people that would want to rent your property, the less likely you are to have an extended vacancy. Now that you've decided what you want to invest in and how to calculate the yield, it's easy to know if a property is a good deal or not. Now comes the part that for most of us is the hardest. Patience. It takes time to save down payments. It takes time to find deals. It takes time to do your due diligence. When you're buying a property, some of that due diligence falls on other people. Your title company has to make sure there's no liens on the property. But you, as the purchaser, need to do things like have a professional inspection done, even after you've purchased several properties and maybe even done some rehabs yourself. I'm purchasing a duplex currently. I've purchased several properties in the past, but I'm still having a professional inspection done. It does a couple of things. One, it lets me know if there's too much work that needs to be done to the property, so I might want to back out of the deal. 2, it gives me a really good document that works as a to-do list once I take ownership of the property. And 3, it gives me a pretty good negotiating tool with the seller. I've actually been able to use an inspection report to get $10,000 taken off of a property. Also, if you're buying the property with a mortgage, it's going to need to appraise high enough for you to qualify for the loan. It's weird. It's one of those times in our lives where we hope something costs enough for us to buy it. If you're going to use all cash or get a mortgage is completely up to you. The first few years are key. I wasn't making a lot of money and I was fighting some bad debt, so saving that first down payment took some time. I house hacked, and this helped me add to my savings rate. House hacking is a powerful tool, but it's not a requirement. What really matters is spending less than you make and avoiding life creep. As you add each property, if you have some discipline and you don't just start spending more money, you'll start to experience an income snowball, and saving to invest becomes faster and easier. This doesn't mean you live frugally forever, But doing it in the first few years can have a huge impact on how long it takes you to build wealth. Being financially free does not mean you live a minimalist life. I have pretty much every streaming service. I eat out all the time. I drive a truck that actually says the compensator on the back. And before COVID, I was taking a month a year in another country. And my goal eventually is to step that up to 3 months a year. What made it possible for me to live my life this way is that I didn't do almost any of these things in the first few years of investing. I waited until the income snowball made it possible without negatively impacting my savings rate. Between the first and second duplex was a bit over 2 years. To the next duplex was just a little under 2 years. With the income snowball growing, now I'm down to where I buy a property pretty much every year, even during the pandemic. I closed on a triplex in November of 2020, and in May of 2021, I'm closing on a duplex. This will be my 15th and 16th units, and thanks to my friend Craig, I'm calling this property my Sweet 16. All of my properties are from the MLS, using traditional lending, so there's no secret sauce. Everything I'm doing is easy to duplicate. I buy rent-ready or already occupied properties, so I'm not doing rehabs. I'm not using the BRRRR method. It's really important to me, since I'm still working full-time, that I'm buying investments and not another job. Since I'm still working full-time and I'm incredibly lazy, my investing had to be as easy as I could make it, or I might have given up, like a lot of people do. So, you, watching this video right now, you can do this. You can make work optional. The whole reason I want to make these videos and share what I've learned is because I can't put into words the amount of mental peace that comes from knowing I will never have to work again. I've heard a lot of people say, I love my job so much I would do it for free. I prefer, I love my job so much it's the only one I would ever do for money. And when you're financially free, it's a lot easier to go after a job that you want to do because you love it, instead of going after a job you have to do because you need the money. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.